Hello everyone, and welcome to another game of World of Warships. Today's replay is from SchiffSchiff, and he's in the Lenin, a tier 8 Russian battleship. Now he is on the map north in a 3-point domination game. It's a tier 8 battle, so that's amazing. There's a carrier, and there are 2 destroyers. Now he is making his way here towards the sea cap where he spawned. And we've got a Fubuki who looks like he wanted to take the cap, but he was discouraged, let's put it like this, by carrier. Which also means he's lost half of his health already, because that's just how it is. Now on the left side, the friendly team seems to be quite aggressive. There is also a destroyer about to enter the cap, I suppose, and the friendly carrier might just be hunting the enemy DD, who is taking A right now. So I guess that's good news. Actually, there is a Tallinn, right, but that's the only raider. And we know that Tallinn is here, so the Fubuki has to be rather careful. 12-kilometer raider can be quite a bit problematic. Also, I'm not sure why SchiffSchiff isn't zooming in more when he's shooting, but I guess it's just his personal preference. And, well, there is a citadel of an Odin, not something you see all that often. Current battleships are pretty hard to citadel in general. And, well, the enemy carrier is dropping some torps here. It looks like our Lenin is only taking 1 though, so everything fine so far. And the Fubuki is running away. So I assume this Fubuki got raided. It would make sense that Tallinn has sailed into a position where he can potentially shoot into the sea cap, and he might just about be 12 kilometers away from sea itself here. But, you know, the Fubuki was prepared. It looks like he was sitting in a position where he could easily escape. And now he's pulled the enemy Tallinn's radar, so he could potentially go back in afterwards and try to cap again. Meanwhile, yeah, it looks like the Tallinn is gone. But what's even more interesting, SchiffSchiff is using the legendary captain, and he just got first blood, which means he's got 1 more charge on his consumables, which is incredibly helpful in a battleship to have 1 more heal. Especially since the Russians only have 4 heals anyway. Well, 4 with superintendent. About it.
Capture that area.
So, it looks like SchiffSchiff here is trying to push C now, which, I mean, there is the Odin that we have to keep an eye on. It looks like the Odin might be pushing through here. I mean, I don't think New Mexico is going to stop an Odin, especially in a close quarters channel like that. Because, well, the Odin has torpedoes, right? New Mexico would try to go for a ram, but trying to ram a ship that has torpedoes is usually not ending that well. And I highly doubt that the New Mexico is winning a gun duel either. But anyway, we're going to see how this works. The New Mexico could, well, probably is just going to sit here, maybe reversing. If the Odin pushes all the way through, then the friendlies might get some broadside shots. Speaking of broadside shots, that New Mexico looks quite a bit broadsidey. And there are 2 citadels, lovely. Meanwhile, our Lenin has taken some torpedo hits from the carrier, but nothing too worrisome. What's a bit more worrisome is that the friendlies have 4 ships in the 9-10 line. And what I don't understand is why the Fubuki left. So basically the Fubuki first wanted to go for the cap, and then the carrier forced him away. Then he went for the cap again, and the Tallinn forced him away. Now the Tallinn is dead, and he could just smoke up against the carrier and nothing could stop him. But basically the Fubuki tried to take the cap as long as there was opposition, and as soon as it was safe to cap, he was like, yeah, I don't want anymore. But anyway, the Odin is coming through, the Lenin is prepared. Oh, there are some planes coming. But let's just see what he can do. Oh, although you have to keep in mind that the Odin has 6-kilometer torps, and he has them on both sides. So he's not only trying to torp the New Mexico, he will try to torp our Lenin here. So this could make things a bit awkward. But it looks like SchiffSchiff here is already switching, going forward again. And it looks like he has decided that Lenin is on low enough hit points that it's going to be finished off by somebody else, which is exactly what happened. And it looks like he's fast enough to tear the Odin torps, But they are dodged. Meanwhile, he is still farming this New Mexico quite nicely. And look at that, the friendly destroyer here has been sunk in the 9-10 line. What a shame. And the sea cap is not going to be taken for now, because, well, it's hard to cap in a battleship when you're spotted, isn't it? And it's hard to be unspotted if you're in a battleship. But, oh, he's only using 2 of his turrets, and that's actually, turns out, it worked. So 1 less enemy, he's getting some additional shots into the Ismail, and looks like he's deciding to oh, the Ismail is slowing down. So he decided to reverse back here into the camp, but as I said, he won't be able to get it as long as he is getting shot at. But maybe, you know, maybe he can just sink the Mogami. That would make this a lot easier. And I'm still not sure why he isn't zooming in, or it feels like it would be a lot easier to aim then. But I guess he's doing a reasonable job with aiming so far, so there is that. I guess it could also just be a problem with the replays, because let's just face it, replays are fucked pretty much these days. But anyway, the Mogami is still showing quite a bit of broadside there. And can he get a good hit? Well, not really. On the bright side, the Mogami is still outside of torpedo range. On the less bright side, the carrier is also taking an interest here. So it looks like our Lenin here has given up on taking this camp. Now there is a friendly Mogami in here now, right? And we can't just leave the capping to the Mogami. It's not like he's going to be that helpful if he's constantly being reset. And if he gets closer to the enemy Mogami, you know, the chances of exactly that are increased by quite a bit. So that Mogami has been dealt with, and he should have been able to get good torps off because of the island here on the right. Like, well, okay, he could have torped for here, but this island will basically serve as, or should serve as a reasonable protection. And look at that, there is a nice citadel into the Dallas. Now, meanwhile, the left flank has pretty much been farmed by the enemy. There is a laser still remaining, but I have a feeling this laser isn't going to survive for much longer. Now, ship-wise, it's not looking... Well, it's actually looking pretty good for the friendlies, to be honest. They are 2 ships ahead, although if we discounted laser, then there might only be 1 ship ahead. But then again, the friendlies are doing a good job of farming this Fuso, who has no support. All other enemies are in the process of running towards A, and no cap has been taken so far. This has been this domination battle that has lasted for 10 minutes already. Half of both teams are about gone, and no cap has been taken. That's interesting, and not for the lack of trying. It's not like both teams are sitting in the back lines and not trying to approach a cap. It's just that nobody is winning the fierce fighting for the caps, it looks like. And this laser is still hanging on. I'm honestly surprised. Good job, laser. Meanwhile, here comes the Fuso. Well, I mean, a Lenin can just overmatch their nose, so you know. The Fuso is pretty much outmatched here. Now, all that SchiffSchiff has to do here is make sure that the Fuso doesn't get to shoot his broadside. And yeah, there is nothing that the Fuso can do about it. So the next salvo should finish off that Fuso. And we are approaching a Kraken here. Yeah, Fuso tries to angle, doesn't matter, he can go through the nose. And, well, that leaves the enemy with 4 ships, although the friendlies only have 6 ships, so it's not like it's that decisive. Now the friendlies have finally managed to take a camp. But there are still 2 camps up for grabs, I guess. Now that enemy North Carolina is surprisingly healthy. I have a feeling if this enemy North Carolina would have used those hit points to tank for the team earlier, the friendly team would be in a much better shape right now. And this was a disappointing salvo. Now the Captain Talent. He had just activated, which means SchiffSchiff has a little bit of heal incoming. He needs to survive another 26 seconds in order to get his last heal off. His last heal that he only has because of the first blood earlier. But he's quite a bit too broadside towards that Lenin. I don't think angling against the Dallas matters that much. There is the Kraken unleashed, yeah. But he's already turning back towards North Carolina. The heal is almost ready. He needs a few more seconds. Oh, he's on fire. I would definitely damage content immediately. And he agrees. Oh, and here comes the carrier. Well, of course here comes the carrier. Now he's trying to angle. Honestly, I would just take those sidebound torps. And like I feel like that North Carolina is able to do a lot more damage than those torps would. Of course he can basically dodge. Yeah, he can dodge all of those torps, but it won't matter if he gets Citadel by North Cal. I feel like taking the torps would have a higher survivor chance, but I guess it's a good question. How much damage do sidebound torps do? Also, I guess if he had been flooded, he doesn't have a damage con ready or dead. I don't know. Maybe he made the right choice after all. So, he is currently undetected, but you know, there is no more healing coming, right? His captain skill is activated, 5 heals have been used, he's at 1799 hit points, and there is obviously a carrier, so the carrier is going to spot him and probably going to finish him off, and yeah, might as well just get his guns firing one last time before this is all over. And there he goes. Now it's 4 against 3. Technically still winnable. Now let's see if I can actually unlock the camera and manage to show you this battle a little bit. So, surprisingly it did work. Now, let's speed this up, because there is still 5.5 minutes to go. The Furry Good is getting harassed by the carrier and is not going to survive that. The North Carolina is still pretty healthy. What do we have here? The Saipan. The Saipan is... Oh, the Mogami is down. I was just saying the Saipan is getting hounded here, but obviously that didn't happen. And, well, there we have Bayern. So, it's unlikely that the enemies will win this at this point, to be honest. Not because of the ships, because of the points. Because the friendly team at some point managed to secure caps, and those caps are working heavily in their favor. When you look at it, the friendly team is so far ahead on points, and the enemy team isn't going to farm this carrier. Like, I mean, if I were this carrier, I would just run for the corner to guarantee the victory. Although, considering how much this North Cal is getting farmed, I doubt that North Cal manages to push around Helsinki, New Mexico, and a carrier in 2 minutes. Meanwhile, the Saipan is getting chased by the Bayern, and... well, the Bayern doing a decent job here. They might actually get this carrier. And there is 50 seconds left. Yeah, the enemy. What's this? But the friendlies are... Oh, are they getting the carrier? Yes, they are. Which brings us to the results. SchiffSchiff earned himself 2,774 base experience. Nicely done by him. Nicely done. He also achieved a devastating strike, a Confederate, a Kraken, a First Blood and a High Caliber, scoring 201,000 points of damage and sinking 5 enemies. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you next time.